The medical bay of Star Station Helion 9 had never been so quiet. That was the first thing Lyra noticed when she pushed through the reinforced doors. Not the smell of antiseptic, not the hum of life support machines, not even the low, mournful tones of the Kethari medical staff murmuring to one another in their native tongue. It was the silence. The terrible, weighted silence of people who had already made their peace with a death that hadn't happened yet. Varric lay in the central pod. He was enormous, as all Drath warriors were, 7 feet of gray-scaled muscle and bone, built like something geology had made instead of biology. His kind had survived 3 ice ages, 2 extinction-level meteor impacts, and 4 interstellar wars across 6 centuries. The Drath did not die easily, but Varric was trying his best to do exactly that. The wounds from the Vorkai ambush had done what no ice age could. His secondary heart had ruptured. His regenerative glands, the biological miracle that made Drath nearly impossible to kill, had gone completely silent. 3 of his 4 lung chambers had collapsed. The station's chief physician, Dr. Soreth, a tall Kethari woman with 6 arms and the calmest eyes Lyra had ever seen on anyone, stood beside the pod with her hands folded. All 6 of them. Folded. The universal gesture of a healer who has run out of options. He will not survive the next rotation, Dr. Soreth said quietly. His biology is shutting down in sequence. We have administered every compound available to us. His own body is refusing. Refusing? Lyra repeated. The Drath survive through will as much as biology, Dr. Soreth explained carefully. When a Drath warrior decides, even unconsciously, that there is nothing left to survive for, the body follows that decision. We cannot override it medically. We have tried. Lyra stood very still in the doorway. She was 11 years old, small for her age, with dark braided hair and the kind of serious brown eyes that made adults vaguely uncomfortable because they suggested a person who was genuinely paying attention. She was the youngest human aboard Helion 9, the daughter of the station's chief engineer, and she had spent the last 3 years following Varric around like a moon orbits a planet. Relentless, consistent, quietly devoted. She had taught him to play chess. He had taught her 17 Drath words for courage, each one meaning something slightly different. She had explained to him the concept of a best friend, a phrase that had no equivalent in the Drath language, and watched his scaled face go through 17 expressions while he processed it. He had, ultimately, decided the concept was inefficient but made an exception in her case. She looked at him now, at the stillness of him, the wrong stillness, the kind that didn't belong on a creature like Varric, and felt something solidify in her chest. Everyone out, she said. Dr. Soreth blinked all 4 of her eyes. Child, please, Lyra added, because her mother had raised her right. I need 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes alone with him. The medical staff exchanged looks. Dr. Soreth studied the girl for a long moment with that unreadable Kethari calm, then made a sound that translated roughly to what does it matter now, and gestured the others toward the door. When the room was empty, Lyra walked to the pod. She was not afraid of how he looked. Other people flinched. She'd seen them do it. Even the adults, even the soldiers, at the gray pallor that had overtaken his scales, at the stillness of a chest that should have been moving with great heaving breaths. She pulled a chair from against the wall, dragged it to the side of the pod with a scraping sound that was very loud in the silence, climbed up onto it, and leaned over the railing until she was close enough to see the faint, irregular flutter at the base of his throat. Still there. Barely, but still there. Hey, she said. Nothing. I know you can hear me, she continued, conversationally, as though she were beginning one of their chess games. Dr. Soreth says Drath hearing is the last thing to go. So I know you're in there, Varric. I know you can hear every word. The machines beeped. The life support hummed. They say you're giving up, Lyra said. They said it really nicely, Dr. Soreth is very professional, but that's what they mean. They say your body is shutting down because you've decided there's nothing to come back for. She paused. That's wrong, she said simply. She reached through the pod railing and found his hand. Enormous, the fingers like a series of small boulders, and wrapped both of her small hands around his index finger. That was all she could manage. One finger. You have me to come back for, she said. And I know, you're going to say that's not enough. You're going to say you're a warrior, and warriors don't survive for the sake of small humans who don't even have a second heart. You're going to give me 17 reasons why this is logical and correct and draft and whatever. Her voice didn't waver. But I'm telling you right now, Varek, those reasons are wrong. All 17 of them. Something changed in the room. Barely perceptible. A shift in pressure, maybe. Or something less physical than that. You told me once that the draft word Vareth means the courage to walk into battle knowing you might die, Lyra said. And Koroth means the courage to keep fighting when you're already losing. And Surith, you explained that one for like 20 minutes. You really liked that one. Surith means the courage to remain who you are when the world is trying to make you into something lesser. She leaned a little closer. I don't know the draft word for this. For what I'm asking you to do. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe you need a human word. She tightened her grip on his finger, both small hands, holding on. So here's the human word. Stay. That's it. Just stay. Stay with me, partner. The machines kept beeping. 1 second. 2. 10. Lyra did not move. She did not cry. She was saving that for later. She had decided she would fall apart completely and appropriately later, and she did not look away from his face. Then Varek's hand moved. It was almost nothing. A tremor. A micro-adjustment of enormous fingers. But then those stone-heavy fingers turned, slowly, with tremendous effort, and wrapped around both of her small hands. Gently, extraordinarily gently, the way she had spent months teaching him to handle fragile things, and held on. The biomonitor screamed. Not a death alarm. Lyra had heard death alarms in training drills, and they were flat and continuous. This was different, cascading, rapid, a machine experiencing something it hadn't been programmed to anticipate. Dr. Soreth burst through the doors 6 seconds later with the entire medical team at her back, and stopped dead at the sight of the readouts. His secondary heart had restarted. Faint, arrhythmic, but beating. Impossible, Dr. Soreth whispered. Then, with great Cathari composure, she looked at the 11-year-old human girl sitting on a chair beside the pod, holding a dying warrior's finger in both hands, and revised her statement. Remarkable. It took Varek 9 weeks to recover. The medical staff documented everything. Papers were written, conferences were called. A draft biologist from 3 systems overcame specifically to examine the data. There were long scientific discussions about the psychosomatic regulation of draft regenerative biology, about the documented but poorly understood role of social bonding in draft survival response, about the extraordinary moment when every shutdown system had reversed course within a span of 40 seconds. Lyra sat with him every day. She brought the chessboard on day 12, when he could open his eyes. She brought a new book she'd been saving. Earth Animals, his favorite. He was fascinated by the improbability of elephants. On day 20. She beat him at chess on day 31, fair and square, and he accused her of cheating with such specific and elaborate draft vocabulary that she had to write half the words down to look up later. On the day he was cleared to walk, he stood to his full 7 feet in the medical bay, rolled his shoulders, looked down at Lyra, and said, "You were not supposed to be able to do that." "Do what?" Lyra asked. "What you did." He considered this. "There is no word for it in draft." Lyra grinned. "I know. That's why I used a human one." Varek was quiet for a moment. His kind did not smile. The facial architecture simply didn't allow for it. But something happened around his eyes that Lyra had learned, over 3 years, to read correctly. "Stay," he said, trying the word, testing the shape of it. He said it the way he said all human words, carefully, like handling something that might be more durable than it appeared. "Yeah," said Lyra. "That's the one." He looked at her for a long moment. "This word," he said finally, "I will keep." In 17 draft languages, there was no word for what she had done. After that day, there was. They borrowed it from the humans. They always did, in the end.